Hello and welcome to this tutorial. Today we're going to be talking about printing out basic shapes, and really this is to give us experience with nested for loops. Now, say I want to draw out a square or a rectangle. What could we do? And this is going to be a very crude looking shape, but to get started, what we could do is create a string, and we'll just call it bar, and make a row of, let's say, 10 asterisks. Okay, so there's our row of 10 asterisks. Now, what we could do is print out bar about maybe 5 times with the end of line character, and that'll make a square of asterisk. So let's try that with a for loop, and we'll just call it I and assign it 0, and we'll say while I is less than 5. And here's the body of our for loop. So while I is less than 5, we want to print out bar along with a end of line character. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this and see how that looks. Okay, so there we go. We have something that resembles a square or a rectangle. Now, what if I wanted to print out something like a triangle? It was easy to print out a rectangle, but what about a triangle? That's a little bit more difficult. And before we get into that, let's say that instead of using bar, we want to get rid of this. We don't want to use bar anymore. How would we go about drawing a rectangle without this? Well, what we could do is one by one print out an asterisks. So we need a control structure to take us in the horizontal. Whenever we're printing out asterisks in the horizontal, and then also vertically whenever we're printing them out. So we're going to need a couple of control structures, and this is where the nested for loop comes in. So if you think about it, say we put another for loop, and let's call this one j and assign it 0, and as j is less than 5, the way you got to think about this is, okay, well, we have obviously a nested for loop, but this for loop is going to be executed 5 times. So if you think about it, this code in here is going to be executed many times. So really the way to think about this is this controls our printing in the vertical direction, and this will control it side to side. So what we want to do is in this for loop is print out a asterisk to go into the horizontal, and then this will control how many the height of the rectangle. So let's just do a cout and then a let's see, asterisk. And let's see what this does. It should print out a whole bunch of asterisks. And as you can see, it did just that, but it did it in one line. So as you can see, we're missing the end of line character. We've got to print that out. We don't want to put it in here though, because then it'll just print out. We'll just have a huge from top to bottom of the screen, we'll have a row of asterisks. So we need to put the end of line character somewhere else. And if you'll remember, I said that this for loop controls our how high we want to go. So we want to print out an end of line character after this for loop executes, because it's printing out in the horizontal direction. So after this for loop gets done executing, we want to print out an end of line, so that we can go ahead and this will loop around and start on the next row. So let's go ahead and see how that looks. And as you can see, we've got that where it's printing out something that resembles a square or a rectangle. So if you think about it, we're now able to print out a rectangle with nested for loops. How would we go about getting it to print out a triangle? And let me go ahead and run this again to bring that up. pretty much what we want to do is have it to where maybe what we could do is have it to where we start at that 1. And every time we start a new row, we increment so that it prints out an additional asterisk. So this first line would be 1, the second line would be 2, the third line would be 3 asterisks, and it just keeps going on until we're done printing out these rows. So we're going to need something outside, a variable outside of this nested for loop. Let's just call it length. And we can set that equal to 1 because the very first line we want to have 1 asterisk print out, and later on we'll increment it. So whenever we get to line 2, we want length to be equal to 2, so it'll print 2 asterisks out. And same with line 3, we want it to be incremented to 3, so it'll print 3 asterisks out. So this is going to control how many rows we want printed out. So this is fine if we leave it. We want 5 rows. Let me just comment this. And the way to think of this for loop is it's a control loop for the columns, or how many asterisks we want. So instead of using 5, because we don't want to print 5 asterisks on every line, we want to print the value, or what length is equivalent to. So on the first line, it'll go ahead and print out, as you can see, well, length is going to be equal to 1 to start off with, and j is going to be 0. So what it's going to do is go ahead and print out 1. Since that evaluates to true, 0 is less than 1, it'll go down here and print out 1 asterisk. And then it'll increment j. Well, 1 is not less than 1, so it'll jump out and print an end of line. So maybe this will work. Let's try this. As you can see, it only printed out 1 asterisk per line. We still got our five rows that we wanted from our first for loop, but our second for loop didn't seem to print out the incrementing asterisks. So it looks like we forgot to increment length. We need that to increment every time we get done with a row. So it's kind of like here where we printed out an end of line. Well, we want to update length. So we increment length, and then it goes through and starts on our next row, and it'll go into this for loop, and length will be the equivalent of 2. So then it'll go and execute through this and print out 2 asterisks. And same with 3. Once it gets out of here, it'll update to 3, run through it again, print out 3 asterisks until we have 5 rows. So let's go ahead and run that, see if it works. And there you go. You can see we have our triangle now, where whatever row we're on, that's how many asterisks there's going to be. So by line 5, there's 5 asterisks printed out. So the way you got to think about it is we have this outer for loop that controls what row we want to be on. This inner one controls what column we want to be on. So it's printing them out one by one next to each other. And then once it exits that, it prints out an end of line character, so we can start on the new row, and updates length for next time that this for loop is executed. It knows how many asterisks to print out. So let's change it up a little bit. Say we want 10 rows instead. Go ahead and start debugging, and as you can see, we've got a larger triangle. And say you want to clean it up a little bit, you could say something like int rows is equal to 10, and instead of saying 10 right here, you could say rows, and that'll say how many rows you want. And so that kind of makes it a bit of a cleaner code, easier to read, and we get the same result. So that's how to draw a rectangle or a triangle, if you would like, in C++. You can do many other shapes like trapezoids, but this is all we're going to be covering in this tutorial. It's really just to try to get you thinking about how to go about drawing different shapes, and really about nested for loops. So I hope you found this video helpful. That concludes this tutorial.